This is the NC Miata. What is this car for? It's for playing with. It's for doing stuff like that. We are going to talk about the value of getting into a used sports car today, specifically one that's lightweight and playful. If you don't already know, the Miata's been around for a long time now. In the 1980s is when they developed this car. You've got 4 generations, right? You got the NA, the NB, NC, and the ND currently, with the NE, we assume that everyone will call it, on the way. What you have here is a classic formula for a small roadster. Whatever your predisposition is with Miata, I want to maybe get you to kind of rethink it here a little bit. This is a small lightweight vehicle with about a 50-50 weight distribution front and rear. It's technically front mid-engine, so the engine's in the front, but you got it tucked really back close to the driver and mostly behind those front axles there. So that is a recipe for fun. It's actually 52% weight distribution in the front with 48 in the rear until the driver gets in. Once the driver's in, that's where you get that magical 50-50 weight distribution. But there's not a lot of power here, but guess what? There's not a lot of weight here. That's what it's all about. So let's go into detail about this 3rd generation NC Mazda Miata. All right, everyone, let's break down the NC Miata. This generation, the 3rd generation Miata, the years for this car are 2006 to 2015. That's a pretty long running generation. But I'll tell you what, the first Miata came out in 1989, and it really, when you talk about things, the Miata has not changed much as we come all the way up to present day. But this car was modeled after the older thinking of the old British Roadster, that fun feeling of being in something small, lightweight, no roof, and it's all about the driving experience. So that thinking put into this package in this small Japanese car with higher levels of reliability can be extremely fun and extremely valuable in many ways. So the NC is actually the largest of all the generation Miatas. You may be looking at it and you're like, this is a very small car, because it is. This car weighs in around 2,500 pounds. That is unthinkable in weight from a modern car standpoint. Most muscle cars are pushing 4,000 pounds. Most small sedans and most small SUVs or CUVs are over 4,000 pounds. 2,500 pounds, so think fun, lightweight. Think about the last time you went to a go-kart track with friends. Even if they weren't that fast, what makes them fun, they are lightweight, they are small. The power to weight ratio is really what matters there. So you get in this and it feels that way. You go 40 miles an hour in this with some good turns and you're gonna feel like you're really doing something, but you're really not going that fast. And that's all that feeling that comes from being in something that is lightweight. But again, this 3rd generation here is the largest of the Miatas. Now, you may remember a car that Mazda put out at the same time that was the Mazda RX-8. Now, at that point in time, they could not justify putting 2 bespoke sports cars on 2 different chassis. So they were forced to use the same chassis for both vehicles. So one of the main reasons why this is the largest of the Miatas is it shares that chassis with the Mazda RX-8. If you remember, the Mazda RX-8, a rotary powered car, had a back seat. A cool looking little coupe, very unique, but it's definitely bigger than this. So they had to take that chassis and trim it up to put it in the Miata so that they were sharing a chassis, and it made it cheaper to develop both vehicles. But while there aren't too many parts shared, the parts that are shared are made lighter weight in this version. So You go to the original Miata, you're at a car that's about 2,300 pounds. In the second generation, about 2,300 pounds or so. But you get to here, you're up to 2,500 pounds. Now, of the Mazda Miata generations, the NC being the heaviest of the NC generation is actually this one, because you've got the power retractable hardtop, and that adds almost 100 pounds. So 2,500 pound sports car, I'm sitting here saying this is the heaviest Miata ever made. But at the same time, I want you to remember this is still the lightest weight car that you are most likely going to see on the road most of the time. So that is a recipe for fun. But here you have a simple coupe shape. There's not a lot of busyness with the design going on here. You have a 2-liter 4-cylinder up front, and you have rear-wheel drive with a limited slip differential in here, mated to a 6-speed manual transmission. This is a touring. They came in sport, touring, and grand touring. The sport can be had with a 5-speed manual transmission, but when you go to the touring or the grand touring, you get the 6-speed. You also can get an automatic, but you don't want that. Nobody wants that. You want the manual transmission in this car because it's all about playing around and having fun with this vehicle. It doesn't have the biggest tires in the world. It doesn't have tons and tons of power. It actually has pretty small tires. These are only 205. 205 45 R17s is what you've got on here. So they're not very big, but again, keeping lightweight. You do have a 17-inch wheel, which is pretty big for Miata. Think about the size wheel that they started with back in generation number 1. But this is a very good-looking little coupe shape, and it is definitely small. You may feel vulnerable driving this around because it is so small. You instantly feel that all the time when you drive it. But I tell you what, standing alone with this car, you get in, it can fit you like a glove. And I tell you what, whether you are wanting to commute, whether you are wanting to go to the track and drive to race this car has a lot to offer. So let's go into a little more detail as we look under the hood. Okay guys, let's talk briefly about the power plant in here. You have that inline 4, it's that 2-liter 4-cylinder. You got variable valve timing, got 16 valves in here, it's a double overhead cam. But I tell you what, this engine is shared, it was co-developed with Ford, as Ford and Mazda were kind of married at this time. And this is a very solid engine. It's considered very reliable. It's very robust for what it is. But you've only got 167 horsepower here with about 140 foot-pounds of torque. But again, this is a lightweight sports car. It's not going to be about hot rodding in a straight line. It's not about drag racing. It is actually a momentum car. This is about keeping and carrying your speed because you're lightweight, you're low to the ground. So getting up to speed and then being able to maintain going fast is what this car is all about. So 167 horsepower is plenty to move this lightweight sports car. But something that is unique here that I will point out is you have a sound tube that is actually pumping mechanical sound of the engine into the cabin on purpose, because this vehicle is about getting those sounds to the driver on purpose. You want to actually hear the engine noise. It's not one of those cars you test drive and you think, oh, it's nice and quiet in here. I feel like I'm inside and locked away in a safe and I don't hear the rest of the world and I'm kind of in my own cocoon. That's not what they're going for with this vehicle. This is actually about bringing all the sounds to you so you as a driver can hear what your engine's doing, what your transmission's doing, what your tires are doing, and then feeling all of the things in this vehicle. So that mechanical function here of actually audibly putting the sound inside is unique to the NC Miata, and I really like that because most modern cars are putting synthetic sound through the speakers. We don't want that. We don't have any of that here. We're just going to take the sound and give it right to the driver. It's not about putting a loud exhaust on it. It's about hearing your engine when you're in the driver's seat, because if you are in a racing situation, which many people with Mazdas are raced on track more than any other vehicle on any given day, anywhere that you look, because Mazda has such a racing heritage. So they know about getting this information to the driver. That's what's most important. So that is one thing that is unique about this vehicle. But again, 4-cylinder, that's all you need in this, 2,500 pounds. So let's move inside the car and talk a little bit about what it's like being in that driver's seat and looking out over the hood of this thing as you race around. All right, guys, let's talk about the interior of this Miata real quick. First of all, size-wise, I'm 5'11", okay? I fit in here really well. I will close the top, and I still fit in here with a helmet on. If I'm doing autocross, right, I will still fit in here at 5'11". Once you get 6 feet and over, you need to start thinking about things, about how you fit in here. Are you mostly lower body in length, or you have really tall torso, or whatever? That's gonna affect how you fit in here. But I don't have the seat all the way back. I can move it back even further. I've got a little bit more to go back. So, but I fit in here fine. If you are smaller than me, it would be even better. But once you get over 6 feet tall, you're kind of looking through the top of the windshield, and then it's just going to become a preference thing of can you deal with that. But in here, you have the basics, you have what you need to be in control and be a driver, and that is it. You have clear analog gauges, you have basic buttons on your center stack, and that's about it. Now this one here has had an aftermarket head unit put in, so you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay if that is something that you need. But I tell you what, if you're expecting to get good sound out here, the sound system in here is absolutely terrible. You will see speakers on the doors and some speakers here between the seats, but the sound system is absolutely horrendous. So if you want to upgrade your sound system, now the Grand Touring, you do get a Bose system, but it's still just fair from a sound standpoint. But once you let all this outside noise in, you're really going to have to put a kick-in sound system in here if you want to hear it and hear it well. Now, something cool about older Miatas is you were able to get some of them with speakers actually in the headrests, and that's good to get some of that sound right to your ears as you are driving down the road and having all of this road noise around you. But the way they've done it with the NC Miata is they've put them here in between the seats. But now let's talk about it. If you're going to get in a correct driving position, again, this is a driver's car, you want to get yourself down in here, you want to be straight, and then you want to rest your hand up on top of the wheel. You want your wrist on the top of the wheel. That's when you know you're far enough back from the steering wheel. Now there's no telescoping steering wheel here, it only goes up and down, but that is how you set yourself. And if you're in a track situation, if you're going to autocross or something, get your wrist up there on the top of the steering wheel, and then move just slightly one notch more forward to where you're just slightly uncomfortable, and that is probably your best position for racing. So that is going to benefit you with your visibility and with your control. But you will notice in here that the handbrake and the stick shift are very, very close together. That is on purpose. Again, when you are sliding around, doing things in this vehicle, you want those things close together. Your travel for your hand to the shifter and even the handbrake is very, very short. There's a very small distance between the different controls that your hands are going to have to be on, because it's about getting your hand quickly back to the wheel. So again, good driving habits. You are at 9 and 3 here with your hands, and you're just very quickly back and forth over to the shifter. But I tell you what, you have very small, Vincent, here's a small car, things are very tiny. Yes, you have tiny, if you're coming out of a large car, an everyday car, you're gonna be like, man, the door handles are small, the air vents are small, the buttons are tiny, the lever on the glove box is small, all of those things. But again, you're in a small car, get used to it. That's just what it is about. This is not a large muscle car or a large Grand Touring car of any kind, but you have very little here that is going to distract you from being in control yourself. So I have no blind spot monitoring here. This car will not park itself. I have no adaptive cruise control. You know, this is not what this car is about. This car actually trusts you to be focused. Be a good focused driver. It knows you're an adult, you're a grown person. You can focus on the road, and you can put yourself in the place you want to be on the road when you want to be there. This car leans on the driver. So when you are in here, that is immediately the sense that you need to get, that you need to have when you're in here. And that is kind of what the driving experience is like in the Mazda Miata. So you're thinking, man, I want the high power sports car, do all the stuff. But I tell you what, if you get down in here, you have little power. The way to get performance out of this car is by pulling performance out of you as the driver. This car has the potential to make you a better driver. And I know I'm talking about sensing a lot just sitting here in the interior of the car, but if you think about those things the next time you sit inside a Miata, those things will start to resonate with you. But when you talk about being in here, this is the largest interior cabin of any of the generation Miatas. The two generations that come before and the ND Miata that comes after this got even smaller inside. And again, it's because it shares that chassis with the Mazda RX-8. So this is considered the most comfortable Miata just because of sheer space. You've got space side to side for your knees and your hips, and it's going to be a little more comfortable on long road trips. I do recommend the NC Miata for a road trip. I've done many in this vehicle, but being in here and having that little bit extra space means you can make it play the grand touring role from time to time if you want. But this, again, is a very basic interior, but you do have good space in here compared to other generation Miatas. But this is a 2012 Miata. We are in an NC2 Miata. This is 2009 to 2012, and then in 2013 you had an NC3 through 2015. I have automatic locks, I have automatic windows, and that's about as far as the electronic amenities go in here. So it's a basic experience, but it's about being in here and being in control as a driver. I have basic cruise control. I do have that as well. But now that we talked about the interior, let's go out and let's drive this car, and let's talk a little bit about what the driving experience is like, what it's like to be behind the wheel when you are down here in the Mazda Miata. Here we go. So much fun to go through the gears. Alright, yeah, learn to drive stick and learn to heel toe and rev match. And then go get after those turns. You come into a turn, blip that throttle, and get after it. That is what it's all about. Alright guys, so driving the Miata in like an everyday commuter situation is definitely different than what you're used to. You are the smallest thing on the road, and you know, you're on a highway next to big semi trucks. It might leave you extra aware, feeling a little small, a little insignificant. But I tell you what, the key is being able to place yourself in traffic and in the space where you want to be, and being in something that's small and agile is kind of what it's all about. So I would challenge you with a question. What is the safest car on the road? And I'm not saying there's necessarily a right or wrong answer to that, but you know, is it the big SUV or truck that surrounds you and covers you in this nice big cage where if you get hit by something else you don't feel it a whole lot? There's a lot of vehicle between you and the impact. Or is it in the smaller and lighter weight vehicle that actually can stop really fast and be more agile? Because I guarantee you that if you're slamming on the brakes, for instance, to come to a stop, that this lightweight little car is going to come to a halt way before that big SUV or that big truck will, because those brakes in that big vehicle have to stop a lot of mass, a lot of weight, and break that momentum. And I tell you what, so I would argue in some cases that it's safer to be in the smaller car where you may feel more vulnerable, but you're also going to be able to stop much quicker and maybe get out of trouble easier.
Woo! Let's go.
All right, summing up the driving experience in here is it's just very involved and it's very fun, and that's okay. That's what you want when you're in a car like this. Top up or top down. You know, I've got the top up now so you can hear me a little bit better, but you're very involved, you're hands-on. You can't afford to be distracted or do other things. But for me, having a Miata that I can drive potentially every day allows me to get little pieces of that each and every day. So that's why I enjoy driving it every day. But let's get back outside of the car and let's wrap things up for this video. Thank you guys for making it this far. This car is so much fun to drive, and I've been so excited to share it with you. So let's conclude things here. All right, guys, let's wrap things up here on this third generation Mazda Miata. Now, what I'm trying to get through to you, if you've made it here all the way to the end of the video, is this is a driver's car. This is a car about driver engagement. So if that's not what you're looking for, don't look here. But I tell you what, if you have thought about a sports car and do I want to go down that road? Is that something I can do? And maybe you haven't thought of Miata. Maybe you think that small little car, I'm not into that. I need more power. I want something to be really fast and have tons and tons of power. I tell you what, I think you should look again. Try the Miata. Number one, it's affordable. And the amount of fun you're gonna get out of this car for that price is amazing. But this car will do more than you think it will. Now, it can play the grand touring role a little bit, especially this third generation, because you got a little more space. You get that power retractable hardtop, you know, and it's going to road trip a little better than something with a soft top. But I tell you what, if you're going to do a road trip, I challenge you to find twisty, tight roads, because that's what this is about. So I've had a lot of cars with a lot of power. I've been through multiple Mustangs and 3 Camaros and a Firebird, and I had my Corvette for almost 4 years, and all those cars are so much fun. But I went from those vehicles and I went way down in power. I think I calculated it out. This vehicle has 37% of the horsepower that my Corvette had right before this. Say, how do you go there? Aren't you supposed to only progress upward? Aren't you supposed to only graduate up to more and more with things in life? I tell you what, I did graduate, but I upgraded the driver as opposed to upgrading the vehicle. And so I went down to this because I wanted a new experience. And having something that is super lightweight has gotten me new experiences that I never had before that I'm so thankful for. I have road tripped in this vehicle, but the main new experience I've had is I've autocrossed. I had never autocrossed before. I'd been on track before, but I'd never done autocross. And I've been autocrossing in this car, and it's absolutely a blast. And you are learning car control at speeds that are safe in an area that's safe. The worst thing you're gonna do is take out a cone, and you're learning so much because you're feeling so much. You still have a hydraulic steering rack here. That means when your hands touch the steering wheel, that steering wheel is connected to other mechanical pieces that go all the way out to the wheels and to the tires, and the vibrations that you feel from the road come through to your hands, and that is providing you with feel, and you learn from that. And that is where learning car control comes in, and learning to drive by feel. And I tell you what, there is no better car for that than this. But if you're looking for something to just have fun with and even commute in from time to time or all the time, I challenge you to stop commuting in your big family hauler if you can. Go cheaper with the family hauler or your big vehicle or your big sedan where the back seats still look new because you never really haul anybody back there. Why are you commuting in something so big, and you get down to your job and you're parking something bigger than you should have to park? Don't do that. Leave the SUV at home if you can. Get in this when you're commuting by yourself anyway. You're going to get 30 miles to the gallon plus on the highway, and you're going to have way more fun than everybody else who's commuting back and forth to work. Just put the coffee in between your legs and be careful if you have to have one of those, or wait till you get to work for one of those. But when you get there and you're squeezing in a spot in a parking garage or you're parallel parking, nothing's easier than parking this thing because it is so tiny. I tell you what, if you are looking for for a sports car and maybe you've never had one, or you had one in the past and you haven't thought Miata, you need to think about Miata. Now, if you are shopping for something that is going to be more of an insulated experience, right, for you and maybe even your passengers, to where it feels more like you are encompassed and separated from the road, then you need something different, because this, again, you've got the sound tube bringing engine noise into the cabin on purpose. That should tell you everything you need to know. This is about getting you closer to the road and the outside without going to a motorcycle. You know, that's about the best you can do, is to get in something like this in a modern vehicle. If you're not about those things, then you may not like this, but I challenge you to get out, test drive one of these, throw the top down and check it out, and I guarantee you, you will have tons of fun. But I hope you have enjoyed this video, because I certainly have enjoyed it. I've been meaning to get a review in for this vehicle for a while, as I've owned it for 2 years, like I said, but this is what we are about here at Drive It Out, preserving the driving experience. Now, if you have another vehicle you drive that is more of an insulated experience, that's great, but I think you should taste something like this, because it kind of brings you back to what driving is all about and the fun and enjoyment that it can provide. So we are about preserving the love of the driving experience here at Drive It Out. You have found us on YouTube. We are on Instagram at Drive It Out. I am personally on Instagram at Naturally Aspirated Adam. Thank you so much for watching, and look for more fun reviews of sports cars and SUVs and other vehicles coming up. I hope you'll join us. So what do you want to drive next? I hope that you choose to drive something fun when you can and when you are able. Thanks again for watching. My name is Adam, and we will see you in the next review. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, here I go. I actually banged my knee on the top of the windshield. This is rolling away.